This room. Okay, great. So now again, I already said it. He's the founder of MyMüsli. Please welcome on stage Max Wittrock. Max, please. Your stage.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Let's clean the pockets really quick. Okay. So, physical products, the real catchy titles of the session. Getting hard with everything and getting hard with hardware. They weren't mine, but at least they dragged you in here. So I'm really happy to see all of you. And for the next, I think about 45 minutes, we're going to talk about physical products. And that does really get me excited because I'll talk about that in a second. But imagine this, when we talked about MyMüsli for the very first time in 2005, everyone was like, you're not starting a social network? I mean, why the hell would you really ship a product? So Zalando wasn't even up yet, and everyone was just, why the fuck would someone do that? Why would someone take the hassle up of really shipping and actually making a product? But the fact that you are here shows that you're basically interested in physical products, and that makes me very happy. And I'm just gonna start with a few opening remarks to set the mood or to get you guys in the mood for physical products, and then we're gonna have three way more cool startups than MyMüsli. We're already seniors, we're old, we're almost 11 years old. Some people say we're not a startup anymore, so I'm gonna make room for them instead of boring you for the next 25 minutes. I think it's impertinent, and especially for startups, and especially for startup marketing, and especially for physical products, that there has to be a cool founder story, and that there has to be a cool founding story. And we hear tons of these stories every day, and believe me, I don't want to bitch, but most of them aren't really good. And the reason why these stories need to be good, two things. First of all, I went to law school in Germany, and when you go to law school, you have these very dark moments where you sit in front of your books and you're like, it's still 8 months to that fucking test at the end, and I don't know if I'm gonna fail. And this is very comparable to startup moments where you sit there and you're like, I'm making 200 euros a month. I just graduated from university. I'm working at a door, like a physical door that I bought at Home Depot with like a lock where my laptop is sitting. Why? Why am I doing this? And when you have a really strong story that you can always keep in your heart and remember, believe me, it will get you through the dark nights. And the story of MyMüsli began in 2005. So we were going to a lake because we studied in the beautiful town of Passau, which is basically in the summertime, the beautiful boring town of Passau. So we listened to radio commercials, and if you're German, if you were raised in the south of Germany, you must know that particular radio commercial. It has been around for decades, and it's a muesli commercial. So we had just heard our first steps of marketing theory at college, and everyone was like, there is no bad marketing. I tend to disagree, but this spot has been around for so long that it ignited a fire within us. And I think that most startups don't start because people look at these figures in Excel and say, well, the upper quadrant, that's where we should focus on. But you need that eureka moment that suddenly it hits you and you think about muesli. And so the three of us got talking, and we found out that all of us really eat muesli, that we love muesli dearly, and also that we really wanted to start a muesli company together. But the problem was, we knew we wanted it to be premium, we wanted it to be really cool, street credible, the supreme of muesli, but we didn't know like what would be our really strong, unique selling proposition. Because I think when it's about physical products, you really need a strong, unique selling proposition. Because if you go to a German supermarket, for example, nowadays, there are so many cool products. Like 20 years ago, it looked like in a Western movie where you could see tumbleweed going through like, woo, 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 and you didn't see any cool product. But nowadays, there are so many good startups. The competition is really fierce. You need a unique selling proposition that is really, really strong. And in the evening, Hubertus suddenly said, mass customized muesli. And I call that the conference room phenomenon. As long as we don't leave this room, this idea sounds good. But when you start talking to your parents, they will say, this idea is ridiculous. And I told my mother, I said, I worked for television at that part, and I was like, I'm going to leave television, I'm going to start a muesli company. We're going to sell something that's available everywhere for a higher price, but online only. And she said, no, please don't. But luckily, she kind of let me pass. And actually, the first time we ever pitched the idea was exactly at this spot, about 11 years ago, at the DLD. Of course, we weren't invited to the DLD if you wear your Abitur suits, that are way too big, and you're like, we start a muesli company, no one's going to invite you to DLD, but luckily there are cool side events. So we went to this blogger thing, and I will always remember, there was one guy, a tech founder called Oliver Tüllmann, and the room was full, Tom was there as well. First time I met Tom, and he said, what are you guys doing, like, besides writing a blog? And we said, we want to start a muesli company. And he shouts across the room to his co-founder, he says, they're making something you can actually touch, you need to come over here. And so this was such a cool moment. We said, yes, we're on the right track. And of course, we all learned in university, when you want to prototype something, when you want to start something, you need to do market research. So we sent one of these dreaded questionnaires to more than 1,000 people that you guys know the drill. If you're writing a bachelor or master thesis, you tell people it will only take 10 minutes. In reality, it will take 27 minutes, but you'll only find out at question 9 out of 10. And you want to win this €5 Amazon voucher so bad that you will finish the questionnaire. So we asked people in the questionnaire, would you buy muesli online? And the very encouraging answer we got was that 0% said yes. And if you're thinking about starting a startup, especially with physical products, people really need to see it. So we remembered that famous Henry Ford quote, if I would have asked people what they really wanted, they would have said faster horses. So we said, if Henry Ford can do it, then 3 students from Passau can do it as well. So we took €3,500 and started a very sophisticated operation in Passau that was basically fully automated. And this, of course, is a very early prototype, but you can already see the coloring scheme that, I would say this is Industry 4.0 before it even hit the newspapers. And as you can see, basically from here, everything's fully automated. We didn't even have a screen. We just put it up for television. In reality, all emails would, all orders would come in via email, and literally, we would check bank accounts and be like, oh, Max, he paid. So we would take the order and put it in paid. And then we take a regular Hewlett-Packard and Brother label printer, put in Zweckform German labels, and then print the labels for the muesli. And there is no person on earth, I challenge you, that has ever produced 8 stickers on an 8-thing Zweckform label thing that were all matching perfectly. One of them is always fucked up. So we took a pen and we would write, strawberries are missing, but please, Gisela, don't be mad at us. And Gisela would be like, oh, this is so nice, they're writing messages on the mueslis. And the beautiful thing about physical products is that it's, in terms of public relations, it's so strong because people can really relate to it. They can tell other people about it. So PR was just going crazy because everyone said, this is the stupidest idea ever. I mean, why do we watch Shark Tank or Lions Den or Höhle der Löwen? Because obviously we want to see people fail miserably. That's why everyone said they will fail miserably, but at least we got a lot of coverage. So orders kept coming in. We gave TV interviews. We were sold out after 2 weeks. Everyone said this is a marketing stunt. This is genius. We were just too stupid to order enough packages because we had never dealt with industrial kind of supply. So I called them and I said, we need new packaging. And they're like, it's 6 weeks. I'm like, no, we need them tomorrow. And he's like, do you know, it will even take me a day to enter that in my ERP system to find out, and how much do you need, like 1 million? No, maybe like 10,000. So this was kind of difficult at first. But what I remember the most is we really fell in love with our product. And I sincerely love this Sam Altman quote, because a lot of founders approach us and they say, this idea, it's $1 billion market, it's gonna change the world. But I always ask them, are you really in love with the idea? No, but it's such a genius idea, the market. And I'm like, are you in love with the idea? Would you marry someone just because he's rich? No. You need to find true love. You need to find true love with your startup as well, because this is the only way that you will, have the courage and the strength to really overcome the difficult times. We had tons of difficult times, but we also had lots of fun. This was our first TV commercial production with an estimated budget of about 2,500 euros in the garden of my best friend. It was lots of fun. And as you can see, and I think that is the reason behind the success of MyMüsli, that a sense of aesthetics was really always present. If you look at our first fair booth, I think it's one of the most beautiful fair booths you will ever see, and you will, of course, all disagree. And two things were done really right, and you should write that down as best practice advice. The key features of the products are clearly visible all from the last row. And then second, we didn't check whether there was an internet connection. There wasn't, so we had to print out our website in black and white so people could browse through it. But luckily we managed to get better at offline sales constantly. We set up our first store in Passau. Nothing happened, no one came in, but we learned a lot about how to set up a store. People always turn to the right at first, so whenever you enter a store, beware. If you go to the right, if the floor is red, you will walk about 25% faster. All these things, so we changed a few things, and suddenly we had Viktualienmarkt. So our store at Viktualienmarkt is still open, and as soon as we got that rental contract, 3 years after we opened the first store in Passau, it was kind of the gate opener to all the other stores, because before that no one took us serious, and they were like, no, muesli store, we don't want a muesli store here. There are tons of great retail chains that we can have in this building. But as soon as you had Viktualienmarkt, it was like a Louis Vuitton bag where you show people like Toronto, Tokyo, Milano, and we're like, we have a store at Wittrock, you might have heard of it. It's a prime food location in Munich. And they're like, oh. And suddenly all the doors open magically. This is the store in Düsseldorf. We learned a lot about how beautiful architecture can be, but the practical use of that store is a little limited, because a friend of mine who's a biologist, he saw that and he said, that's a perfect structure. No one wants to destroy a perfect structure. So people are really afraid of taking something out. So they take something out and there's a hole. They can't get it back in. They start to sweat. They're like, the person can't help me. I need to put it down. I need to leave the store. Where is the exit? Where's my tub? So like later on, we had them facing upright again. And we also went to supermarkets, which of course was a good move because it strengthened availability. But the problem was that every product, and that really, when it comes to physical products, is tough. Every raisin had to be counted by hand until we built this beautiful machine that you can still visit in Passau. If you're ever around, come by. It produces 566 quadrillion mueslis, fully automated, and yeah, it's just beautiful. So a few closing remarks. When you start a physical, and that's, I'm sure we're gonna hear from the three people up on stage in just a second, it's almost never easy, and what can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy's Law always applies. And I think that's not bad, but the problem is with, especially when it comes to physical products, just like us, you're so afraid of making mistakes. And when you grow up, I'm a father, so I'll tell you the story of how a child learns to walk. So a child basically starts to walk at the age of, say, 1.5. So how does he learn how to walk? He falls down, like all the time. He hurts himself, but this is considered to be important because that's how you learn how to walk. This suddenly changes. This is a principle that has worked for thousands of years. When you enter the school system, suddenly making a mistake is wrong, 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 wrong. So what happens? You're afraid of making mistakes because that's not how you learn. That's how you're wrong, how you fail. So what do? You're constantly, especially Germans, in that lab situation that a friend of mine once called the analysis paralysis. Before we even start a product, we want to be bulletproof sure that our idea will work. And that isn't possible. It's just not possible. So you should rather just start before thinking about it constantly. And don't be afraid to fail. And really, Nike is a great example of that course because their marketing slogan just nails it, just do it. It's the best market test ever. And so we're gonna meet three people in just a second that started great startups. I have a lot of respect for them because they're more or less all technology based. They all discovered a niche that is also technology supported. And I feel like a caveman compared to that because we just put muesli ingredients in the tube. But let's see what they have to say about technology. And now, like my last advice to you guys, if you think about a startup, don't give up, because it's going to be such a hard way. It's going to be awesome, but it's also gonna suck many, many times. But always remember, it takes years to become an overnight success. Thank you very much.